Howdy everyone, Zakalachi back again, and today I have my spell deck overview. Spells are very strong throughout all stages of a game, providing a wide variety of both positive and negative effects. Spells are primarily cast using magic, which resets each dusk to match your spirit stat, and then in addition the range of spells that you can cast is also determined by your spirit stat, meaning high spirit characters can reach most if not all of the board. Spells can be played to yourself or another specified target for an immediate effect, or it can be played as a peril to hinder the competition. Everyone can do at least some spell casting, but some characters like the Bear Clan are better suited to taking advantage of the spell deck over others. The one thing to note about the spell deck is it does not have any sword symbol cards, just something to remember if you need a sword symbol for whatever reason. And the spell deck also contains the most rot gaining cards, so draw spells if you plan on going for a rot victory. But you cannot rely exclusively on those since you'll need other sources of rot throughout a game to cross that threshold for victory there. Lots to go over again, timestamps for specific cards are in the description below. So to start us off, we have Tanglevine, a rare spell costing 2 magic and will take away 1 HP and 1 action point from the target. Fairly good effect for the price, the -1 AP especially can be punishing since I've seen games won and lost off of that effect alone. It's an excellent peril spell and easily played to a wide variety of common terrains. Second is Wyld Born, also a rare spell costing 1 magic and will grant evade to the target until the end of the next turn. You can either play this card to yourself for the evade effect if you want to lessen your chances of dying when attacked by something, but a more fun tactic is to play this card to someone else to get them out of your way when you don't want to take any damage in combat, especially in the palace. Good value for the 1 value cost, and wild symbols are always helpful burns as well. Cleansing Wyld is third up on our list here, costing 2 magic, and it will take away 1 rot and also cure poison on the target. This is one of those cards that you pull through the deck to find, since taking the rot off can help keep you clean, or it can totally screw someone else trying to go for a rot victory by lowering their rot count below the corruption threshold, or just getting them lower than the thing they're trying to fight so they're up against a lot of dice there. Wyld Born is a unique spell costing 2 magic, and its effect is it will give you 5 magic back the next time the target enters a stone circle. This can be very powerful to allow you to cast those expensive spells, or just a bunch of little ones, but I found this card comes up when you don't necessarily need the magic right away, and then you play it to yourself, but then you forget about its effect, and sometimes activate it during the day when you don't have any spells, and you'll lose all the bonus magic, so gotta be careful, but it is very strong when it comes around. Banish is a rare card costing 4 magic, and it will teleport the target to the furthest dungeon. This can be one of the most useful spells, either banishing yourself across the board to help you get to your quest easier, especially like if you've just died and your quest is on the opposite end, just banish yourself and you're there. Or you can banish someone out of the palace when they're forced to wait that 1 turn before fighting the king. You can banish someone out of your way, or if you know they're close to their quest target, just banish them away from there. Just so many scenarios you can get value out of this card. And last on the first page is Mirror Image, an uncommon spell costing 2 magic, and the effect is -2 dice for the target's opponent in combat. Admittedly, this card is a bit poorly worded because I've seen people play this to people thinking that it takes off 2 dice off of the target, and then they fight them only to see that they are getting the 2 dice off instead. You want to play this card to whatever you want to have advantage in combat. Mostly yourself, but you can also play this to Banes or Kingsguards that are about to attack opponents to make those fights even more annoying for them that way. First of the stat boosting cards is Evil Eye, rare cards costing 3 magic, and they give you +2 wits until the end of your next turn. Very helpful spell to get those extra chances on wits quests, so I usually hold on to this if I'm working my way towards one of those, but otherwise it's still very helpful about allowing you to get more cards than normal. It can be a bit clunky afterwards though, since your wits can then go below your current number of cards that you have in your hand, so you won't be able to draw new ones if you can't play out those extras, but still very much worth it. Next up is Feral, which are uncommon spells, cost 2 magic, and then give you +2 fights and -1 wits until the end of your next turn. Like with all the other stat boosting cards, this is great for getting those extra chances on your quest, but this one is also good for just cutting a swath through everything in your way. Extra fight dice are always fairly helpful, but the -1 wits makes it so that this card does not cycle while its effect is in play. But it is more efficient than Brazenberry Ale while you're under that -1 wits penalty. Third up is Barkskin, also an uncommon spell, costs 2 magic, and then gives you +2 body until the end of your next turn. And whenever you gain body in Armello, it also gives you the corresponding health to go with it. So this card effectively heals you for 2, while also increasing your body by 2 while its effect is in play. It's good for the quest rewards like the other stat buffs, and I usually play these as soon as I can get them. Potentially staying alive at key moments with this card is well worth the investment. Next is Cursed Lands, the first common spell in the deck, costing 1 magic and then adding 1 difficulty to perils. This adds a rot symbol to a perils requirements to pass it, and it can be helpful to buff up perils in areas that you want to protect, or help make the palace perils much harder to breach without a perfect handful of cards to lock in symbols and some very lucky rolls, preventing easier access and forcing your opponents to finish their quests if they want to gain entry to the palace that way. Fifth on this page is Plague, a unique spell in the deck giving 1 rot, and then the target also gains 1 rot and is poisoned until the end of their next turn. This is a good card to find when you're going for a rot game, since you can play this to yourself for a double shot of rot at the cost of poisoning yourself, but more often this is played as a peril to settlements to discourage other people from going there. Usually sucks to get hit by this card, since the poison and rot health loss together make for a deadly combination, and also just causing the victim to have a bad turn or two while they're limping along poisoned. And then we have Teleport, rare cards costing 3 magic, and then you can teleport to any tile within your casting range, barring the palace. This is one of the best cards in the game, and you're always happy to draw one of these. Too many good situations to list them all, but generally, something is in your way, and you'd rather not have to deal with it, so you just teleport past it. Get through or onto mountains without the AP cost, avoid a fight, just save a turn to avoid walking, on and on. You're never sad to see a teleport. Next page starts us off with Regeneration, uncommon spells costing 3 magic, and they give you +2 HP per turn for the next 2 turns. Armello can be a pretty brutal game, and more oftenly you'll find yourself with less than full HP, so playing this to keep topped off for a couple turns is very nice. A bit expensive if you only need just the 1 activation, but if you need both, then it makes it all worthwhile. Next is Wake the Trees, a rare spell costing 2 magic, and then its effect is -1 action point, and 2 cards from the target's hand are discarded. This is one of the best spells to play as a peril, and again, I've seen games won and lost off of the AP cost of this card. If you run into this while holding on to something valuable like a hot rot wine, it can be even more brutal when you fail this peril and you lose that card. Playing it directly onto someone is also very nice, since the -AP effect will activate instantly, and overall it's just a solid spell. The only downside is it can only be played to forests, but forests are fairly plentiful and usually in key pathways around the board. Next up is Blizzard, a rare spell costing 2 magic, and will take off 2 HP and then force the target off of a mountain, since this can only be played on mountains. If there is a peril on a mountain, plan on it being this one. You can easily deduce if someone plays a 2 magic spell to a mountain, it's probably this, and also the king loves to play these all over the place, so if you see a peril on a mountain, just plan on it being a blizzard. Wall of Thorns is a rare spell costing 3 magic, and it creates an impassable wall of thorns around an empty tile until the dawn. So that means that it's most optimal to play this during the day, so that way you get 2 turns of its effect instead of just 1 if you play it during the night. And you can use this to lock your opponents out of claiming one of your settlements, out of a particular tile, so that way they have to go around through unoptimal paths like through mountains and swamps, and also so that they can't get to you if you're in the palace and they need to take a more direct route there. And just so many different options, it's a great versatile card. Rite of Wyld is a unique spell costing 3 magic and takes off 1 HP per point of rot on the target. This is mostly used to instant kill a Bane for a free prestige, but can also be played as a peril to a stone circle. Not much beyond that. It is a bit expensive to be played as a peril, since fully corrupted characters are not going into stone circles, and it's not super common for someone with rot to end their turn in a stone circle, and they're still at a proper HP and rot count to get the kill, but it's still an interesting card when this one comes up. And then we have Aflame, rare spells costing 2 magic, and they will take off 2 HP, but also cause all suns to explode until the end of the target's next turn. This is mostly played as an offensive spell to get a free kill from afar, but if you have healing readily available, even just a stone circle, it can be worth it to play this to yourself for the exploding sun effect if you know you're going to be doing a lot of combats, since the explodes trigger on both burned and rolled suns. Just a solid versatile card all around. First up on this 4th page is Call of the Worm, a unique spell giving you 1 rot, and then the symbols of all the cards in the target's hand turn into rot symbols as well. This is most impactful when you're already corrupted, so you just play it to yourself to get a handful of exploding rot symboled cards, and if you play this directly to someone not corrupted, they'll get a handful of useless burns, which can turn the tide of a key battle potentially. Also, it can be played as a peril to a dungeon near your own area if you're going rot, but aren't quite there yet, so you can take advantage of it later on as a peril once you are corrupted and get the rot symbols that way. Bloodthirst is a rare 2 magic costing spell which gives you 1 HP back after battle concludes for every point of damage the target inflicts. I'm personally never sad to see these come up since healing is always helpful, especially after combat, to help you maintain momentum. This is best on high fight characters, picking this as one of their 2 spells that come up during the nighttime, but everyone can use this to some effect. Glamour is surprisingly the second common card in the deck so far, costing 1 magic, and it lets you steal 1 card from your target's hand. For an eminently playable common card, this can be one of the most absolutely game-changing cards at times. With smart play and a bit of luck, you can pluck a powerful and expensive card out of people's hands that they've been holding on to, like a hot rot wine, or something else that someone absolutely needed to win the game, like a key item they've been holding to equip. Almost always worth pulling spells just for these alone, since everyone can cast them and cause a little chaos. Dark Influence is the next of the unique rot spells in the deck, costing 4 magic, and the target will gain 1 rot and another rot costing spell to their hand. It's a bit expensive to cast, but this card alone will grant 2 easy steps toward a rot victory. It'll get you started off right, push you into corruption, or just solidify your rot lead. Playing it as a peril isn't as great most of the time for the price you have to pay. More often than you just play this to yourself or someone else. Shimmer Shield is another common spell that costs 1 magic, and it causes all cards in the target's hand to turn into shields. This is a fun, cheap card that I'm pretty sure is why Magna only has 2 spirit to start with, since otherwise she'd be too incentivized to pull spells to get these and then get a supercharged hero power. For everyone else though, this most common application is to wash your hand clean of any rot cards so you can burn those for at least a helpful shield in combat, but you can also play this to someone trying to breach the palace when they haven't finished their quest, so that way they only have a handful of shields instead of the most likely diverse set of symbols in their hand that they're using to try to breach. And then last on this page is Moonbite. Rare spells costing 2 magic, and they will take off 2 HP at nighttime or 1 HP during the day. This is a bread and butter damage spell, obviously best played at night when you get that fresh batch of magic and can make the most use of it. Play it to everything with 2 HP or less for free kill, but when played as a peril, it only has 2 symbols to beat, so it isn't as effective that way. But it can still be a good deterrence on a key tile. Rounding off all the 1-cost spells is Divination, which is an uncommon spell, costs 1 magic, and grants Scout on the target until end of next turn. Scout can be very useful, as I've stated in other Armello overview videos, for nullifying evade and stealth effects on other players, as well as peering into perils to see if it's worth risking. Easy to play for information otherwise unavailable, and we all know that knowing is half the battle. Final stat buffing card is Focus, an uncommon spell costing 3 magic for +2 spirit until the end of your next turn. This is the counterpart to Evil Eye, and this card is actually slightly clunkier for optimal play though. Like the other stat buffing cards, it can increase your odds on a spirit quest reward. However, usually you're drawing spells when dusk rolls around and you're flush with that fresh magic, but you want to play this card during the day so that the extra spirit gives you some bonus magic back for more spell casting. So it's sitting in your hand for a turn, slightly limiting your options there, but it gives it back slightly with a big spellcasting turn if you do manage to pull that off. And then speaking of big spells, Spirit Strike can be one of the biggest spells in the game. It is unique and is the only spell to cost a variable amount of magic, but it costs all of it remaining. It will take off 1 HP per magic spent, and with enough magic, this card can one-shot literally anything, which is why there's only 1 of them in the deck. Combos well with focus boosting magic gain potential, as well as other things like Moon Juice or the Clan Rings that grant bonus magic. There is an anti-synergy with the Apprentice Follower, however, since despite this card's text saying that it costs all the remaining magic, the Apprentice effect of reducing magic cost by 1 activates after that is calculated and does reduce the potency of this card by 1. But when you get this, something will usually die. Immolation is the next damaging spell, uncommon, costs 2 magic, and will deal 3 HP worth of damage for targets that are adjacent to you, and then -1 HP per tile further away from that for a minimum of 1. Basically, this card follows the formula where the damage dealt is equal to 4 minus X, where X is the number of tiles away from your location, and indeed will deal 4 damage if you play this card to yourself. This is usually a bread and butter damage spell as well for getting nice kills, but that 4 HP to yourself can also be used to death warp back to your spawn if your quest ends up near there as well. Malice Rising is the next unique rot spell, summoning a Bane to the tile that you cast this to. The Bane is a fresh one with 5 rot to itself, so you can usually just play this to a settlement to terrorize it out of somebody else's control and then get that chance at prestige fighting it back. Or as a free Bane to fight and consume when you're corrupted for that additional rot and health, or you can cast this and then just die to the bird to get more on your way towards that path of corruption. And then there's Haste, rare spells costing 3 magic that give you +1 AP for the next 2 of your turns. Definitely worth playing this card to yourself in almost all situations, since the extra AP provided can mean reaching your quest a turn or 2 sooner, crossing bothersome mountain ranges, snagging a settlement you'd otherwise need to pass by, or just any number of scenarios. It can be better to hold on to this card if you're fixing to engage in a risky combat, so that way you can play it to yourself in case you die back at your clan grounds to get some momentum back after respawning. And then this page has a lot of those high cost spells that I've been mentioning. Their effects can be game deciding, and if you're a character that can't play those big spells, unfortunately they'll clog your hand until you get a chance to burn them out. Starting with Lightning Strike, a rare spell costing 5 magic that will take off 3 HP and a target's turn will end immediately. Not only is it a big damage spike that doesn't diminish with distance like with Immolation, but if failed as a peril, it will end the target's turn. No settlement capture, dungeon delving, and usually lost AP, making this one of the most brutal perils to fail. The next big spell is Crystallise, a unique one costing 6 magic, and it will summon a Spirit Stone into a Stone Circle. This is one of the most expensive cards in the game, great if you're going for a Spirit Stone victory and can scrounge up the magic needed, usually through a combination of multiple sources like Moon, Juice, and Focus, and then it can be worth holding on to this card to make that happen. Otherwise, just burn it for the Wyld symbol and be done with it. Funnily enough, I find myself burning this card to get the Wyld locked on Palace perils more often than not. Rotten Fog is a rare spell costing 2 magic that will create a toxic fog on a tile that you play it to, damaging all heroes that pass through it for 1 HP until the next dawn. Like the poisoning items from the item deck, playing this card usually doesn't win you any friends. You mostly play this to your own settlements to make enemies think twice about claiming over them, or just making a choke point tile a little more annoying to cross through for a turn or 2. Like Wall of Thorns, it's best played during the day for a longer lasting effect. And then there's Syphon, the final unique rot spell, costs 6 magic, and will give you +2 rot, and then gain 1 HP back as well for every Bane that's on the board. This is the other most expensive card in the game with Crystallise, and it doesn't actually damage the Banes with the Syphon health, despite how Syphon would suggest that it would. You just gain the HP and rot. Again, good for hide spirit characters going for rot, but otherwise just burned out of your hand. Spirit Seeds is a unique 5 magic costing Wyld spell, and it converts a swamp tile into a forest tile, and then granting anything standing on that tile +5 HP. It's pretty situational, but when that situation arises, it is the best thing ever to have in your hand. It's almost always a complete full heal if you can cast it on yourself, and it makes future movement through that area a bit easier since it changes out the swamp for a forest. And the final regular spell are the Leeches, uncommon spells giving you 1 rot and then stealing 1 HP from their target, unless they're in a stone circle or protected by stone wards. One of the bread and butter rot cards, helping to keep you alive from the rot health loss at dawn, and increasing your rot count, but can also be played in a pinch against 1 HP targets for a kill at crucial times, like someone's in the palace or on your quest, or you just need to get 1 HP off of somebody. And then the final page of the spell deck here is all of the curses from Yordana's hero power. If you want to hear more about how these work, check out the Bear Clan overview linked in the playlist at the end of every video here. And so that concludes the spell deck, full of very powerful and far-reaching effects. Both damage and healing, rot in the wild, hindering and boosting, stealing and giving. The spell deck has pretty much everything you could ask for. Like and subscribe for more of this type of content, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Until next time.